What's up, everybody? It's your boy Wolf Vane, and I am back with the same vein on another episode talking about some Legend of Zelda, because I have a little bit of something interesting to share with everybody. I don't know how many people have paid attention, and I know it's also been a very big question with the whole Zelda community, especially with placement. But I want to talk about the extension of the timeline with the Tears of the Kingdom and Ocarina of Time, mixing with all the other games and Tears of the Kingdom and all that kind of stuff, right? So what I have been realizing from a lot of research is that what happens in Tears of the Kingdom when Zelda goes back into the past, or that's what happens, she goes back into the past after she finds Ganondorf's corpse and all that other craziness starts to happen, she gets transported back into the past. So the era in which she appears in is a time period in between, what they say is in between Skyward Sword and the following game, the Minish Cap. The problem is, well, it's not really a problem. It's really kind of interesting, actually, because in Skyward Sword's original storyline, you have a hero, right? You have an actual hero who comes and saves the day, whose name is Link, right? So what happens is they've released another game, or they're coming out with another game currently as of the making of this video, called Age of Calamity. Now, anybody who knows that's gonna no, it's Age of Imprisonment. My fault. It's Age of Imprisonment, and in it there is really no Link, but we do have this cybernetic-like being. It's a Zonai technology character who is supposedly the placeholder for Link from the theory, because the idea of it is this is the imprisonment war, the imprisoning war. This is the time before Demise is imprisoned. This is the fight for Demise's imprisonment. All that kind of stuff, right? So at the moment, there's no Link. There's no Zelda for real, except for the one that went back into the past. She's not technically supposed to be there, but I digress. So what happens is that when she goes back into the past, she starts to experience an alternate timeline. There's proof of the alternate timeline making sense right here in this particular branch of the timeline, and I tell you why. Because if you really think about it, by the end of Skyward Sword, Link has sealed Ganon, or Demise, except the chosen hero is also not really mentioned before then either. So it's just like, in this particular period, Demise is still not captured yet. So who's the real Link now? And it's what we are theorizing is this new Zonai creation, I guess you could say. And we don't have any confirmation from Nintendo or anybody else yet on that. But what we do know is that this motherfucker comes in flying in one of the scenes, and he can transform and all this other crazy shit. So he is flowing with Zonai energy, and we do see that there are many different characters who do make themselves a Zonai body in Tears of the Kingdom. So they're technically just energy transferred over to an AI body, technically. So what happens is, how this all ties together is, in the imprisonment war, that's when Goddess Hylia was supposed to be involved in all of this, right? But during the time of the Skyward Sword that we're talking about, some of the events in my mind were actually different. They didn't play out the same way for the Age of Imprisonment that Nintendo has actually said is now canon. It's in order for some of these events to make sense, some of the events in Skyward Sword had to have been different. And I tell you this because the Skyloft did not come down to the ground where all of evil and chaos was until after the whole situation with Demise being imprisoned. In this particular story, the Zonai still come from the sky, Skyloft coming from the sky, crashing into the ground. Who knows? They could have built themselves a whole bunch of technology over the years, right? So what ends up happening is they end up having to fight against the demon Demise himself I don't really know if they're actually going to have Demise as the boss or final boss or whatever, but we can see from in Tears of the Kingdom, when you actually fight him, he is starting to take a bit of his more demonic or his more Demon King form in one of his last stages. And he's not even reverting to the Beast Ganon in this particular game. He's really just Ganondorf, or just Ganon, or Demise in this particular case. But we call him Ganon because that's what we recognize him as. So in this particular case, that version of him, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually get to see that. And if we do, that'd be awesome. And it would confirm my theory that Skyloft was dropped from the sky, and instead of it being Hylians, it's now the Zonai, because the stories they connect. And it crashes into the ground, and then that's when the Age of Imprisonment actually happens, where there's a massive battle between all the demons and the Demon King and all the Zonai, and then that's what Zelda's experiencing from Tears of the Kingdom. She came from Tears of the Kingdom to the Age of Imprisonment. Like I said, they said that this is now canon, so we have to find a way to make it fit. Any questions? I got everybody silent over here, but that's exactly what I expected. So
My head hurt.
they don't even care. They don't try. They don't try to care. But either ways, I feel like that this is a new branch off the timeline. So now you have the Downfall timeline where Link fights where Link fights Ganondorf and loses. Then you have the Child timeline where he fights Ganondorf and wins. And then you have the Adult timeline where he wins and does not go back into the past. But you also now have another timeline for where Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom can actually be connected. And I do believe that that particular time period starts with a different event that we do not get to see with Skyward Sword. Because we don't have a hero in that particular game. We have a Zonai creation. And it might have been the spirit of the hero before the spirit of the hero got an actual body. That's just my thoughts. This has been your boy Wolfvane. Have a good night.